All right, guys, time for a little bit more manual exposure practice. This is the Johnson's basement version. So I am set up here in my basement, and I'm taking a picture of my weights for when I work out. And I'm on a tripod, and I've got some decent light in here, and that's why I'm using ISO 100. My subject's not moving. It's not super dark in here, and I got a tripod, so even though I'm inside, I'm totally okay shooting at an ISO of 100. Also, I know I'm going for a super shallow depth of field, so I'm shooting at f1.8. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this picture at 1/60. And you can see that actually doesn't look too bad, but on the actual camera itself, it's a little bit dark. It's about 1 stop too dark, which means I need to let in 1 stop more light through the shutter speed. So what am I going to change my shutter speed to? All right, if you guess 1/30, that is correct. 1/30 is 1 stop more light than 1/60, and that looks pretty solid both on this screen and when I look at it on the actual screen. So there's our first one. Let's take this same photo, but let's go for a deeper depth of field now. So I'm at f1.8, and I want a deeper depth of field. What am I going to do with my aperture? Yep, I'm going to raise it up. So I'm going to start cranking this up, and because I want a deep depth of field, I'm going to go all the way to f22. I know already that I can still shoot at ISO 100 because, again, I'm on a tripod and my subject's not moving. So remember, we always want the lowest ISO possible that still allows us to get the shot that we want. So I'm just going to leave it at 100. What do you think this photo is going to look like when I take it right now? Is it going to be too bright or too dark? Let's find out. It's obviously way too dark. We let in a ton less light when we switched that f-stop to f22. We made our aperture much smaller, right? We made that hole real tiny, so we let in way less light. So in order to solve this, again, we don't want to change our aperture because we like that deep depth of field. We don't want to change our ISO if we don't have to. So what are we going to do? Are we going to use a faster or a slower shutter speed? That's right, a slower shutter speed is going to let in more light. I have no idea how much. I'm just going to go down to like 1 second, and let's see how that looks. Obviously, that takes about a second to take, and that's pretty dark. It looks brighter on the video than it is in real life. I'm going to go ahead and say it's about 3 stops too dark, and I'm just guessing here, about 3 stops too dark. If it is 3 stops too dark, what shutter speed is going to give us the correct exposure? If you said 8 seconds, you were correct. So let's see. 1 stop takes us to 2 seconds. 2 stops takes us to 4 seconds. And 3 stops takes us to 8 seconds. And guess how long it's going to take this picture? 8 seconds. Whoa, that was the fastest 8-second exposure ever. And that actually looks really great. I got that deep depth of field by shooting at 8 seconds at f22 at ISO 100. All right, let's do one last shot here. Let's say we couldn't shoot at 8 seconds. Let's say we needed a faster shutter speed, but we still need that deep depth of field. What do we need to do before we can make that happen? All right, if you said raise your ISO, you were correct. So I'm going to guess because we're shooting at f22, we're going to need to crank that ISO up pretty high. Let's try 3200 and see if that works. We might need to go even higher, but let's try that. So I know now that I could probably have a faster shutter speed because I just cranked up my my ISO. Let's try 1/4 of a second at f22 and see what that looks like. Oh, that's actually not too bad. It's a little bit too dark still, though. I would like to make this just a touch brighter, but I really don't want to use a slower shutter speed. And I also don't want to open up or change the aperture anymore. So what am I going to do to that ISO? I want to make this photo about 1 stop brighter. What ISO would give me that? All right, if you said ISO 6400, you were correct. Remember, that's going to raise our ISO 1 stop. That's going to make the digital sensor more sensitive to light. And without changing our shutter speed or our f-stop, we just made our photo brighter. And that actually looks really dang good right there. Other than having to shoot at ISO 6400, which we had to do because it's dark in here and we needed that fast shutter speed and we needed, well, faster shutter speed, and we needed the deep depth of field that we got at f22. All right, there you go. A little more manual exposure practice here in Johnson's basement. Hopefully you learned something and feel a little bit more confident about manual exposure.